We're studying the New Testament book of Ephesians, a letter Paul wrote from a prison cell in Rome. Paul was inspired by God to address issues in the church and culture that still exist today. It's always interesting when someone challenges me for writing out my messages. They believe unplanned speech is more inspired than carefully prayed through and written out words. Well, that's an interesting concept. That's not scriptural. Paul wrote. And then the letter was read out loud as the message or sermon to each church as they gathered together. That's the New Testament model. The churches Paul wrote to were struggling with division and prejudice between Jews and Gentiles. Each felt they were superior to the other. In the first 3 chapters of this letter, Paul dealt with theological issues and attacked their prejudice. Now, starting with chapter 4, the tone of the letter shifts to practical instruction, how to live for Jesus, how to stand strong in faith, how to serve in unity and impact society. People have a lot of thoughts and opinions about what a Christian should be. Sadly, those opinions have not only divided the church, but damaged its reputation. We can't base our beliefs or behavior on opinions because opinions change all the time. Instead, we are learning what it means to be biblical Christians. No, not for our country of birth, political party, denomination, race, ethnicity, background, or preferred style, but as people who learn and obey what the Bible says. Biblical Christians stand apart. The way they think, act, speak, and treat others is radically different. My prayer is that as you live as a biblical Christian, people will be drawn to the difference in you. That was Paul's desire for the church in Ephesus. Paul wrote, as a prisoner for the Lord. Paul restated where he was, in chains, in a Roman prison. Paul wasn't looking for sympathy or trying to shame the Ephesians into doing what he said. Instead, Paul reminded them that following Jesus comes with a cost, that he was paying a price for his obedience. I want you to notice his words. Paul didn't say, as a prisoner of the Romans. He said, as a prisoner for the Lord. Paul wanted the church to know that his difficult circumstances had not shaken his commitment, faith, or confidence in the Lord. Sometimes you read the Bible and think, well, that sounds good, but that was 2,000 years ago. I've got pressure. I've got bills. I've got sickness. I'm dealing with fear and uncertainty. Paul was in prison in Rome with the full expectation that he would be killed for his faith when he wrote, you people better hurry up and get me out of here. I can't take it anymore. Organize a Facebook group. Storm the gates. Do whatever it takes to get me out of this place. I shouldn't be here. That can't be God's plan. I'm hungry. I'm lonely. Come now. Well, that's what you expect. But Paul's focus wasn't on himself. Even while in prison, his concern was for the church. He wrote, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you've received. I urge you, please, live a life worthy of your calling. I beg you, be different. I urge you, live a life worthy of the calling you've received. The calling you've received is salvation and relationship with God. 1 Peter chapter 2 describes it this way. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God, that you may declare the presence of him who called you out of darkness and into his wonderful light. You're called by God. You belong to God. So live like it. And what comes next is not a list of rules in order to be accepted by God. Instead, these are things you do because you've been called by him. Now, is it possible to be saved without living this way? Maybe. But to not live this way is to devalue the God who called you and saved you. You're supposed to be different. Your character should reflect the character of Jesus. How do you do that? Paul tells us. First, verse 2, be completely humble. Another version says, always be humble. And the Jewish part of the audience connected with this. Humility was an attribute they viewed as godly, but the Greek part of the audience was stunned. In their word, humility was a negative quality associated with weakness. Position and title was everything. What mattered was where you were from, where your parents were, who they were, their social position, how much education you had, what title and position you held, how smart and powerful and wealthy you were. The goal was to be high, mighty, strong, popular, respected, feared, and always, in every situation, looked up to. In their world, calling someone humble was an insult. And now Paul, their spiritual leader, challenged them to always be humble. Humble when dealing with people who are below them. Humble when working together. Humble when following their leaders. Humbling yourself is still countercultural. It's not what normal people do, but it is what biblical Christians do. So the question is, how do you humble yourself? Pastor Parker had some great things to say about that a couple weeks ago. If you missed that message, go back and listen. But I'll give you 3 more quick thoughts. Things you can do to be humble. Number 1, serve selflessly. It's possible to serve with selfish motives. That's not serving, that's positioning. The selfish pseudo-servant only volunteers for positions that get attention and recognition. If the lights are on and they get a microphone, sign them up. If there's a title to be had, people to lead, or a position with power, they're ready. The pseudo-servant even has ways to make that feel and sound spiritual. Well, I'm called to be a leader, or God sent me here to be a board member. Their pursuit of recognition is often apparent. They say, well, if I can't be the teacher, I don't want to be involved. That's my song. And if I don't sing my song, I'm out of here. I'm not called to serve. I'm called to lead. If I don't get a solo, I won't be a part of the choir, because listen to my beautiful voice. I'm not a choir singer. I am a solo singer. The humble servant, on the other hand, serves unselfishly, regardless of attention or recognition. They volunteer for the roles no one else sees. John Riddle runs audio for online. No one ever sees him. He's isolated in a little room, but because he serves, tens of thousands of people hear our service every week. Kevin Nichols and a group of guys from a reentry home clean the buses every week. You don't see or notice it, but you'd notice if they didn't do it. Jimmy Sobchak drives a bus, picks people up for church every Saturday night. That's just one of the behind-the-scenes things he does. He's a beautiful example of a humble servant. Chuck Clemens comes to the church every week, empties the trash cans, takes all the trash to the dumpster. That is a humble serving ministry. Martin and Brenda Zermatt are here several days a week, preparing bags of grocery for the hungry. Mike Mitchell helps reset technical stuff in the classrooms every week. He serves at our offices. He helps deliver packages. Larry Kitchler blows leaves, picks weeds, and power washes the sidewalks. We don't assign people jobs in order to humble them. Instead, humble people find gaps and graciously serve. Yeah. Recently, after a Friday night wedding, I was vacuuming the platform. Now, I don't know who it was. Someone came in, saw me, and said, "You're the pastor. You shouldn't be doing that." And my reply was, "That's why I should be doing it." Now, there are a lot of things I can't do. It's well documented what I can't do. You don't want me building something. You don't want me driving. You don't want to come to me for counseling. You've proven that by not coming back. But I can run a vacuum. I can do that. Serving helps get the focus of your wants, your needs, your desires, and instead focuses on others. Second thing to humble yourself, admit your weaknesses honestly. The proud person does everything possible to hide his weaknesses. The humble person knows who she is and who she isn't. Humility isn't false modesty or a way to get attention. It's an understanding of your strengths and weaknesses. There is a connection. between being humble and being realistic. I know what I do well. I also know what I don't do well. I don't try to fool you. I know it, you know it. Pastor Parker shared these verses from 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 12:9. He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness and insults and hardships and persecutions and difficulties. For when I am weak, that's when I am strong. The humble person recognizes that an honest admission of weakness positions you to receive God's strength. When you admit you're weak, that you can't do it on your own, that's when the strength and power of God is best revealed in you. Third thing you can do, be grateful when you succeed. A humble heart is a grateful heart. Grateful to God, grateful to others. Here's a good rule to practice for humility. Give others the credit and give God the glory. Others the credit, God the glory. When someone says that was an amazing teaching, the humble person says, we've got a great team. They did amazing work on that. Humility shares the credit. When someone says, wow, that song was powerful, the humble person says, praise God, I'm so thankful for his presence. Give God the glory. In our world of self-promotion and self-exaltation, humility stands out as different. When you're humble, not looking for position, attention, or promotion, it's awesome the difference we can make together. To live worthy of your calling, be completely humble and gentle. The dictionary definition of gentle is kindly, not severe, or rough, or violent, amiably, moderate, mild. But the word Paul used for gentle has a deeper meaning. The closest English word might be graciousness. It's a humble graciousness that produces patience to endure injustice, disgrace, and mistreatment without retaliation, bitterness, or revenge. The opposite of gentle is harsh and judgmental. You know people who are harsh and judgmental. Don't point at them. But they are, with their words, their actions, and the way they treat others. You see it on their social media. They're critical, quick to be angry, very opinionated about those kind of people. They tend to put people in broad categories instead of seeing them as individuals. Too many people are quick to judge others while still wanting mercy for themselves. Gentleness is not judgmental. Jesus said, do not judge, and you'll not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Be gentle, and you will receive gentleness. Make it your goal to treat others the way you want God to treat you. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Gentleness brings peace instead of more trouble. And it's not just your words that should be gentle, it's also your tone. How you say something is important as what you say. If you're married, you know that, right? Come on. You can say, I love you, and the meaning can be, I don't want to see your face. Just by the way you say it. In church, in business, in family, there are often little fires burning. Fires of hurt feelings, anger, bitterness, selfishness, gossip. A troublemaker pours gas on the fire. They love to stir up trouble. They love to hear about it and share about it, talk about it, send anonymous emails. Which the stupidity of an anonymous email amazes me, because your email address is on that email. Just want to help you. Your anonymous emails aren't, okay? A gentle person pours water on fires. They put out fires. Something in the nature of a calm, gentle person helps other people put conflict in a better perspective. Wonderful picture of gentleness is holding a baby. When you hold a baby, you treat her as fragile, breakable. You hold her with cautious, loving attention and care. What you want doesn't matter. Your attention's not on yourself. All that matters is taking care of her. You want to protect her from harm, keep her safe in your arms. You would do anything and sacrifice anything for that baby. How different would it be if we held on to relationships with each other like we hold a baby? If we treated each other with that same gentle care? If we did whatever it took to keep someone else from being hurt or harmed? You know, as I look back at 30 years here, my biggest regrets are times I wasn't appropriately gentle with others. And if that was you, I'm sorry. Gentleness is strength under control. When you're gentle with someone, you don't hurt them even though you could. You don't judge them even though you have grounds for accusation. You choose not to exercise strength. Just like humility, being gentle will make you stand out as different. And when we are gentle together, this becomes a place for healing and restoration for the broken. Word spreads fast about that kind of place. People say, I was lost and broken, but the people of First NLR were gentle with me. They didn't judge me. They didn't try to cram truth down my throat. They were patient and kind, trusting God to do his work in my heart. They loved me. Well, he saved me. That's the heart of God and what we must be. Paul said, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Recently, I witnessed the opposite of patience. I rode in the truck with Pastor Parker from Dallas to Little Rock. I was in the back seat. Parker was driving. My sweet wife, Cindy, was in the front seat. It was the week after Christmas. Parker had COVID, didn't feel well at all. We were still letting him drive because him with COVID is a better driver than me without COVID. But he didn't feel good and he wanted to get home. Cindy was impatient. She wanted to get home. I was in the back seat reading. Traffic was heavy. People were slow. People drove in the wrong lane. People forgot to use their turn signals. People sped up and slowed down. Basically, everyone on the road that day was intentionally trying to get in our way. That day on the road from Dallas to Little Rock, somewhere there were signs that said, slow down the Loys. And for almost 5 hours, Parker and dear sweet Miss Cindy kept a running commentary about the stupidity of the other drivers. They talked to them. He hit the steering wheel. She slammed her hand on the dashboard. They stayed frustrated. They called them names, not curse words, just Christian curse words. Cindy gave them driving instructions. And at one point, I just said, you know what? They can't hear you. We didn't get home any faster. Their impatience didn't affect anyone else, only themselves. Now, it is easy for me to talk about Pastor Parker and Cindy being impatient. That's it. That's all I got. But I want you to listen to what Pastor Randy wrote to me. He read this message, and then he sent me this in an email. When I travel with you, you don't like to wait. I have irritated you by walking slowly or looking at things. I've seen you frustrated with people because they take too long, but not so with Maverick and Evie, my grandchildren. They take longer than I do to walk somewhere. I irritate you, they bring you joy. Why? Because you love them more. Very true. Said you can put up with them, even eliminate your frustration because you love them. Pastor Randy's 100% right. I love my grandchildren. I don't have any expectation they will move quick, walk fast, or pay attention. My love plus my lack of unrealistic expectations makes me patient. Impatience comes when you don't meet my expectations. When I hold you to some standard most of the time that I don't even tell you, and then you don't live up to it. You didn't do it my way, my pace, my time. Patience frees you from the burden of my expectations and allows God to do his work in you, his way, his time. And I wonder, would that work with each other? Is it possible the answer to impatience is love and putting aside unrealistic expectations? Can you imagine the difference if you were patient? What would it be like if a whole church practiced patience? I'm not talking about patience in the parking lot. I mean, I'm sure you do that. But patient with the progress of people trying to learn what it means to follow Jesus. Patient with God's process in the lives of others. Patient with the restoration process for someone who's failed and fallen. Patient with the faults and failures of others. Patient with someone who's trying to kick a habit and recover from addiction. How about this? Patient with people whose opinions are different than your own. Patient with people who voted different than you. Patient when you don't get what you want when you want it. Patient with the temperature in the sanctuary. It would be absolutely amazing. Can you imagine that kind of church? Humble, gentle, patiently bearing with one another in love. According to Paul, when a group of biblical Christians get together to form a biblical church, that's what it's supposed to look like. Remember, the original audience was in conflict with each other because they were different. When different people come together, there's going to be challenges and conflict and tension. You can count on it. That's part of it. There are all types of people at First NLR: race, age, ethnicity, background. That means we get to patiently love each other. Paul said, be completely humble, gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Now look what's next. Make every effort. I want you to underline those two words. Every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Keyword every. The dictionary definition of every is all possible, the greatest possible degree of. Make every possible effort. Try to the greatest degree you can to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Work towards unity. We're all different. The only way we will have unity is if God brings us together through his Spirit. That's his part. He brings us together. Our part is to work like crazy, to be gentle, loving, and patient to preserve unity. For the sake of the church and for the sake of the world around us, unity must be maintained. We must get along with each other. We must make every effort. We must do the hard work of keeping together what God has brought together. We must. That means being humble, preferring others before yourself. That means being gentle, seeking peace instead of trouble. That means patiently bearing with one another in love, allowing God to work in the heart of others, and being willing to sacrifice your wants, your needs, your desires, and preferences in order to preserve unity. A church filled with people who do those three things will have unity. The other side's also true. If you're not willing to be humble, gentle, and patient, then you are the enemy of unity in God's church, and you have set yourself against him. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There's one body and one Spirit. Just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all, through all, and in all. We are one in the Spirit. We have one Lord, one hope, one faith, one God. With all our differences, we are one. In other words, Paul said, hey guys, why we're one in everything else? Why are you fighting and dividing into groups? You have one hope, one God, one salvation. Why are you divided when you share the same main things? You were baptized together. Why did you separate when you came out of the water? You're all going to the same heaven, your hope. So why separate now? You all serve the same God and share the same faith. Instead of dividing over your differences, unite over what you have in common. That's a good word for the church today. Stop dividing God's church. We have the same God, the same faith. We're going to the same heaven. There's one Jesus who died on one cross for all of us. Rally around that. Unite around that. Quit arguing and fighting about stuff that doesn't make any eternal difference. Be humble, gentle, patient, and come together in unity and faith and purpose. And when we do, we will change the world together. Now, it's great to say, amen, let's do it. But it starts with you and me. So what do? What's the action step? First, find a place to selflessly serve. Humble yourself and intentionally serve without the desire for recognition or honor. If you don't know where the place is, after service, come by the guest center, and we will help you find the perfect place of ministry where no one will see you. If you've been harsh, critical, and judgmental, stop it. Be gentle and gently trust God for others. Let him work his plan in their life. Practice patience. In God's plan, God's timing. Ask God to increase your love for others, because as your love grows, your patience grows. Before you do or say something, ask yourself, does this promote unity in God's church, or will this bring division? Intentionally connect with people who are different than you, but serve the same Jesus. We are one. We are one family. And when one celebrates, we all celebrate. When one hurts, we all hurt, and we help.